Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse.
And I'm Karen Deep.
Welcome to the Golden Note podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we are covering a much talked about album by the legendary Kendrick Lamar. His latest album, GNX, which he released back in November. As of recording, we are in late December right now. So we've had about a month and a bit to sit with this album. I think it was late November, maybe it was mid-November. Whatever. He released it in November. Let me talk about the background before we get started in our review of this album. This was released off his win or his win against Drake from their beef. It was a much talked about beef, not only in the rap world but in the music world in general, I think, and just in the pop culture realm. Um, the reason I bring up the beef is I feel like you can't really separate the beef from this album. They're very intermeshed. For me and for many people, I think this album represents a victory lap for Kendrick after this beef. It's kind of like a celebratory, like, I won the beef. 2024 is my year. Here's my album of bangers and fun songs to listen to that kind of solidifies my my position in rap right now. That's the way that I kind of see this album in the context of everything. Excuse me. In general, the album is dripping in West Coast beats and production. Upon its release, it was critically acclaimed by most publications, except for Pitchfork, which I believe gave it like a 6 out of 10, which is a bit controversial.
That is a bit controversial.
But yeah, so Karen, we'll get started with our thoughts, our familiarity first with the album before. I guess like we really listened to it when it first came out, right? Like
I gave it a once over when it first came out, but I haven't dove deep into it. So I think the first half of these songs were kind of a second listen.
Okay.
But most of it was pretty new to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're both pretty familiar with Kendrick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Been following Kendrick for pretty much since he really broke out in the scene.
However, on my side, I wasn't fully caught up with all the beef. So I kind of came into this album with just, this is a new album by Kendrick. Let's take a listen to it. I haven't been caught up with all the drama.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's at least one song, which is the first song, so that kind of acts as a nice transition, that kind of discusses the beef or like kind of addresses some of the things on the periphery of the beef. But okay, I want to start with the visual, right? The album art, and I also want to start with the title GNX. So off the bat, Karen, what do you think, visually speaking, what do you think of the album cover and the title?
I think it's a work of art.
A work of art. There you go.
When somebody says album cover, album art, I think it's just a collection of time. Sorry, it's a portrait in time. It's a portrait in time as much as the music is also a portrait in time. And I think he did a really good job at clearly defining what that is for him. Apparently it's his car and a black white photo in a studio. I'll never understand exactly how they get that car in the studio without making tire tracks, but maybe they clean it up after. But I think it's very effective. I think it's very clear.
Yeah.
Especially after hearing the album, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think the album cover's sick. Like when I first saw the cover, I was like, okay, like Kendrick is like he's gonna be going real hard with some fun songs here, like, and he just looks tough, he looks really tough on this album cover.
Yeah, he's grown up. He's a grown man.
He's got
young man.
He's leaning back with a ton of swagger against the car there. He's got his big belt buckle that kind of almost looks like a UFC belt or something like that.
Yeah, that is a big buckle, eh?
That's massive. So to me, it just screams, like swagger and just like, yeah, I'm here and I'm ready to go. And I'm trying to think of, no, I was like, has he ever had a cover where he's on it? But of course he has. He's like the album Damn. He's on that one.
He's on that one.
I
Can't miss it.
Can't miss it. What was before that? The classic To Pimp a Butterfly. He's in that famous
group shot,
picture, right?
Somewhere in there.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe in between there was the untitled one where he wasn't in there.
He wasn't in there. he wasn't in the one with the van.
Good Kid, Mad
Good Kid,
City.
Mad City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's been a mixture of him being in the cover and not. But anyways, I think the album cover looks sick. I believe GNX is the title, is the name of the car,
I believe so as
or the
well.
name of the type of car. And the significance there is the car is a really like kind of legendary model in, I guess, the West Coast
Mhm.
in California. We're from Canada, and like in Toronto. So this is not only are we in like enemy territory with in regards to the beef, regards to Kendrick and West Coast, but yeah, we're very far removed from California and the West Coast.
Yeah.
So correct us if if we're wrong about any of what we're saying about GNX, the car, or the West Coast, or anything like
If
that.
anything, Toronto's more of a JDM scene than anything else.
A what?
Japanese imports cars.
Oh, true.
That's a bigger
Yeah.
scene here than any
Yeah.
muscle or West Coast
Yeah.
cruisers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so right off the bat, so do you give it a thumbs up, thumbs down,
Thumbs up.
thumbs up? I like it
Yeah.
too. I like how GNX is like very, very simple and just easy to remember. And yeah,
My
cool.
dad's a mechanic, so this is it's nice to see a car.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate
True.
cars.
Yeah, you have that mechanic background. Okay, so going to the first song, Whacked Out Murals. We were just talking about the beef with Drake and how we can't separate it, and this song is a prime example as to why we cannot separate the beef. This is my thesis, I guess. We cannot separate the beef from this album because in the song, he talks about, for example, Lil Wayne, who is he's Lil Wayne's the one who brought Drake into the rap forefront and made him popular.
Right.
He talks about Lil Wayne. He says, I used to listen to the Carter album. I forget which one he says exactly, the Carter 3 or something. I used to listen to it and get inspired by it. But the irony is, I feel like all my hard work has let Lil Wayne down because now he's been introduced to the Super Bowl. Kendrick is gonna perform at the Super Bowl in 2025, and it's gonna be in Louisiana, or it's gonna be in not Louisiana. It's gonna be in New Orleans,
Okay.
and New Orleans is Lil Wayne's city.
Wow.
Like Lil Wayne is like that's his kind of home turf, and apparently Lil Wayne has been gunning to perform at the Super Bowl, specifically in New Orleans. Like whenever it showed up to New Orleans next,
That's
he's like for
unfortunate.
years he's been like, anytime if it ever shows up to New Orleans, I'm that guy who's gonna perform at it. And Kendrick gets it, and it's right off the beef with Drake,
Yeah.
and so Lil Wayne heard about it. He got mad and he let out a statement being like, I can't believe Kendrick got this, like I'm upset. And so then in this song, Kendrick is like referencing Lil Wayne and be like, oh, I let Lil Wayne down, but then he goes, whatever though. And he's just like, with all that swagger in there, he's like, whatever, I'm still doing my thing.
Yeah.
There's other lines that reference the beef a little bit. He talks about, I think in this one he talks about COVID. He's like, I did what COVID did. They'll never get over it. Right. It's like another reference to the beef, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll never get over what that whole beef situation with him and Drake was for this year, for 2024. Sorry. Yeah. So let me get into the song itself a bit more. But actually, Karen, do you have any thoughts before I go forward with that?
Perhaps just a couple of opening remarks about this first track and perhaps starting the album is what an entrance. I really like the way this album started off.
Yes.
And I can talk more about it, but I'll just leave it at that for now.
What an entrance. I totally agree. It's menacing. The beat is menacing. The vibe is menacing. Kendrick, the intensity in his voice right off the bat is pretty wild.
He's got a different character. Kendrick plays his different characters. There's some vibes. Plays with his voice very well. Very specific about how he delivers lyrics. And this is a new character that he's introducing. And the way he introduced it was phenomenal. Each element was introduced one at a time, slowly. And as soon as they started combining, he introduced something new, changed up the vibe. And then he brought it all back together in different moments. And that's a theme throughout this album, where he just brings in compositionally, arrangement-wise, in the production, blends these new modern techniques with the deepest retro sounds ever. It's something that can only be done in the modern era, with the technology that we have, and a lot of references to spatial audio, where the mix is a lot more not, I want to say artificial, but it's everything is placed very intentionally and in spaces you wouldn't normally think about. And it does so, and he does the same thing with combining music elements, styles, sounds throughout this whole album. So it's very intentional and it's quite the work of art, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Like the West Coast vibe is totally there. It's prominent. It's very clear where his inspiration is coming from, beat wise, at least. And but it still feels new. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel dated or generic. Yeah. Okay. Um, you also mentioned it's like a character. You think he's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's basically doing like musical theater, but with rap. He's tells stories. He plays personas. Maybe that's more of the thing. He displays personas in his music, and the voice and the character or the persona that he's using right off the top is kind of the main character of this whole thing, but it's also a parody of elements of who he is. And then he brings back old familiar characters and voices later on as well, referencing to how he combines things and brings it all together.
okay, interesting. I never thought of that before. So that's cool. Okay. So whacked out murals, intense, menacing. And I did catch that like he changes his voice a little halfway through this song, and specifically when he mentions the Lil Wayne line. The beat, as we said, like the beats in general are really great throughout the album. It's great on this song. Um, I love when he says, "I ain't doing double entendres. I want everyone to feel this.
Mm.
Like I'm not making this complicated. Like I'm really speaking from with my chest out.
Yeah,
You know."
I like that too. It's very
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah, and so that sets the tone for the album. It's like you hear that and you're like, okay, like this is not going to be some like deep narrative like thing, like super conceptual storytelling thing where every single song connects to each other, kind of like with To Pimp a Butterfly or Good Kid, Mad City. So I like that he kind of starts off with that. This song, um, I am like a common theme for me as well throughout this album was a lot of these felt like if it's reminded me of Not Like Us, his like diss track where he basically won the beef with Drake, but um, a lot of these don't live up to the memorability of
Mm.
that's a word. Yes, doesn't live up to how memorable Not Like Us is, in my opinion. But I don't think Whacked Out Murals needs to have that quality to it, as it need to be as memorable as Not Like Us. It's just here to set the tone for the album and be awesome. Yeah.
I think these songs are meant to be listened to in the context of the album. It's hard to separate them on an individual basis, except if you like Mustard. And
Who's
there's
all over this album, but I'm pretty sure, right? Like I'm pretty sure he's like the main producer for all of them. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I
Is
think
Mustard
so.
the name of the producer?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he just said Mustard.
No.
I like Mustard more than as much as the next guy. So I guess I learned something today.
Karen's from the jazz world, everybody. He's from the jazz and the rock music world. So
I'm also not good at memorizing lyrics or names, so there I am.
yes, yeah. So he's very much a fan of hip hop music, but and I am too, and I'm not gonna claim that I am like any expert on hip hop stuff.
Which I would say you're a lot more familiar with a lot of the community and the culture more than I am, I say.
Yeah. I think I have a bit more familiarity in that sense, but yes, Mustard is the name of the producer.
Good to know.
Which is why he screams Mustard in one of the songs. Later on in
and
the
he might have
album.
mentioned, one of the songs he might have mentioned it as one of his buddies.
That's
but,
TV Off, I think, right? They
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right.
but what I'm saying is, I know Mustard is at least on that track. I'm pretty sure he's on a lot of them, if not all of them. I'm positive that he worked with other producers as well, like collaborated with other producers. But Mustard is definitely throughout the beef too. It was just like a huge. He was on Kendrick's team and was like,
So it's a strong ally to have.
yeah. Okay, let's move on to Squabble Up.
Squabble up.
Squabble Up.
Squabble up.
Big West Coast vibes, as is the entire album, but very much so on this song. I think the chorus is hilarious. I love the energy. Yeah, it's really fun. It's just, once again, it's giving me Not Like Us vibes. and it's just not as memorable. It's not like us. Like I I kind of would like if I had to choose, it's always going to be not like us, you know?
There's two things in this song that really stood out to me. The first was the shout chorus around a minute 30 mark was very effective and very enjoyable to hear, especially after hearing. It was like a shout chorus, kind of like a call and response type of thing, where
Oh
you can
yeah,
sing along a little bit, like there's a little catchier
yeah,
moment. And then after it changed his voice from that, going back to his first voice, he transitioned in his vocal performance, and it was such a gradient. It took about maybe 2 to 3 bars where he transitioned from this more Kendrick familiar Kendrick voice to the new one that he's kind of presenting, and that blew my mind. I felt like I didn't know that you can transition. Usually, it just starts a new verse with a different voice or has moments, but he like made sure you knew that he's doing this intentionally and transitioned right back to the new character. And that's the first time I heard him do that, and I thought, what a performance!
yeah,
Fantastic performance.
yeah. No, his performance is really great. Like I said, love the energy. I just feel like the chorus, like where he's just saying squabble up, is just it gets a bit too repetitive for me.
Yeah, it gets a
It's
little bit
a
much.
bit too repetitive, and I kind of want more. And I just can't help but compare it to Not Like Us. So that's my feeling on it. I think it's a bop. I don't know. It's just not my favorite. I don't
I
know.
equate it to the word fetch. He really wants to make this happen.
Yeah, he wants to make fetch happen. He
Yeah.
wants to make squabble up happen. And I think it like I don't know. It's just it's frustrating because it's like I know I'm supposed to love the song. Why don't I love it more
Mm.
than I do right now? Like I know I'm supposed to love it. Like yeah, like the way other people are really loving it. So, anyways, squabble up. It
Squabble up.
has to me. It's great, but it has had potential to be more, and it didn't quite live up to that. So, but we'll keep going to Luther,
Yes.
which is a very smooth track. It's got SZA singing throughout. Him, Kendrick, and SZA kind of go back and forth with like a cool duet vibe throughout the track. And Kendrick sounds great
Yeah.
singing.
Yeah.
He really shows off his voice. He does a weird repetitive thing at the beginning where he's like fa 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 fa, and it's just like I can't like it's like what is that what
Yeah. It's a bit
I don't
artsy.
know
It can
it
be a little artsy for at
yeah
times.
so the first time I listened to it I was like what is that what and it just kind of like I couldn't stop thinking about I don't know like it's just without that part it would be like a perfect song
Right.
and the
Right.
fact that there's just like this massive ketchup stain on on the shirt is my analogy to this.
Very appropriate.
It kind of like ruins the song for me a little bit because the rest of it's so beautiful. But maybe I'm just being overly sensitive.
No, I get it. Sometimes certain tracks like this, you want it to be a little bit more accessible, especially after we're familiar with the type of hip hop that we enjoy. And so when it doesn't hit that mark, you have to consider, is this something completely different, or is this still a Kendrick song that I can enjoy?
Yeah,
And I feel like this whole album is kind of flirting with that idea. He's envisioning something new for himself and for the audience, and it's gonna take some like getting used to learn what that is and to
yeah,
appreciate it. And not everyone's gonna appreciate it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I have the same kind of impression generally about that. A couple things on this track though. SZA, fantastic.
yeah.
At this point in the album, listening through, I was like, thank God there's a female vocalist. It really lightens things up.
Mhm.
It's very smooth and intimate. Um, and
You're like, thank goodness there's a female
thank
vocalist.
goodness. Because like at this point, I'm like, there's a lot to kind of process.
Yeah,
I just got squabbled up.
yeah, yeah,
Now what am I supposed to feel? Come on, give me something nice. Like let
yeah,
me feel good for a moment. Not confused. So
yeah,
she did a really great job at that, and I love how they sang together, and how SZA also shares some characters of her voice by singing alto in the lower part. She kind of went to the lower register, and I felt like that was just very welcomed, and it really helped bring cohesion to both of the vocal performances. And there's one moment with the string part. It was a string flourish from the right center, right
yeah.
channel to
I
the left.
love that part too. Yeah,
Holy shit.
yeah,
I've never heard a string flourish be mixed so upfront and so forward. And the space it took up had to be a remix from spatial audio. I don't think it's possible to do that natively from doing stereo mixing.
really.
It has to be in a
That's a
mix of
spatial audio.
reverbs from a spatial audio platform,
Wow.
because it's too precise to me. I mean, unless the mix engineer is very skilled in stereo mixing,
Yeah.
I think that that moment had to be at least inspired by a spatial audio mix that was reincorporated into the song as a production element for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that that string part is It's magical to the ears. And you know what? I'm being too much of a hater. This is a great song overall, and I shouldn't let that first fa 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 at the
Now,
beginning ruin it for me. Because honestly, like even when that part happens, I still listen to the whole track. I still pretty much enjoy the whole track, and I feel like it has grown on me since I first listened to it. Um, I do compare it a lot to his tracks with Rihanna on Damn. It really gives me nostalgic vibes for like when I first listened to those songs in 2017. So yeah, no, I do like this song. I would definitely still give the song a thumbs up.
great.
Yeah, cool. Next one, Man at the Garden. I love the I deserve it. Oh, refrain. I love it. It's so
Mhm.
good. It's so confident, intense. Um, it's a stone cold confidence booster.
Mm.
That's what I have in my notes here. Stone cold confidence booster. Yeah, I just love it. It's menacing, like Whacked Out Murals is, and he's just owning up to everything. Like, yeah, like I'm the man of the hour. I'm the best rapper in 2024 and of all time, really. And I deserve it all, and my family deserves it all. My friends deserve it all, and it's kind of like in your face reminder of like, hey, like you as a person should have this same energy and be like, hey, like, you know, I do deserve to have these blessings in front of me. So that's how I interpreted it.
Mm.
And I really like this song.
For me, initially, it was. I'm just gonna read my notes here. This one, I'll admit, I needed to give it a second listen
Okay.
to get it. First off, the whole "I deserve it all" thing didn't sit well with me when I first listened to it. I felt very uncomfortable. I'm like, is this a character or is this actually Kendrick? Because I don't know if I could subscribe to Kendrick if he's like if this is who he is, you know?
If he's this arrogant.
If he's this arrogant. There's parts of him that is definitely is because he wouldn't be here without it. But let me read through what I
Sure.
wrote down here. It's a character that parodies the deep recognition of his character, young blood dreaming, feeling like he's owed something. He repents. He's in humility. And now, in pain, he cries out and asserts himself. He touched on something that only he was confident to share with the audience to let you see his pain and the power that he believes in.
Wow.
So, along the same lines,
Pretty deep.
he made the song, man.
Yeah, he did. No, yeah, that's so upon further listen, are you a fan of the song?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The way he brought it in the end with the verse with his family and stuff, it
Yeah.
helped me feel a little bit more relaxed about,
Okay.
okay, he's got a different perspective. He can bring it together. If it's not his arrogance, what is he trying to share? And to me, it's a power that he believes in.
Right. So you've mentioned the character part, your character thing a few times where you feel like
Yeah.
he's kind of like channeling a different character, and I kind of get what you're saying. Like he kind of does that in Good Kid, Mad City. I can see that argument being played out for To Pimp a Butterfly.
That's kind of what he does. The only song that I think he doesn't do that is
Gloria.
not even Gloria. Heart Part 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the only track where I felt
Yeah.
like that's just Kendrick rapping.
That's just Kendrick, yeah. I feel like it could be the case where he's like becoming a character on this album. I feel like it's still heavily inspired by him.
Oh, definitely.
100%. Yeah.
It's like I'm a big fan of the web series called Red versus Blue. In that, there's one character who splits off into different AIs, different parts of their personality, and they're like little ghosts that kind of happen to tinker around with his journey in that story. And each part of it is a certain heavily founded on a certain emotion, just like how we all are. We have angry parts of us, sad parts of us, that kind of thing, or like Inside Out,
Yeah.
that that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like Kendrick does that in a lot more nuanced and beautiful way, where it's a parody of an emotion, but more an experience that resonates so deeply with people, and that is makes people deeply uncomfortable. But he's willing to explore it and share it in a new way.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I see that. Okay. Yeah. So, with that in mind, the next tracks, hot take for me, I have no notes.
No
or
notes.
my notes are it's basically just like all the problems I had with Squabble Up,
Mhm.
or all my critiques, are kind of amplified
Right.
even more with the next ones, where it's just like he's basically just like, he's flexing, he's having his victory lap, which is cool. It's just, for me, once again, like, these songs are kind of like in a similar vein to Not Like Us, and even to Squabble Up, like, comparatively, they're just not as good. And so it's like, other than like flexing, having a good time, and a great beat, there's not much there for me. I don't feel like there's a lot of substance. And when I listen to Kendrick, that's usually what I'm looking for, is like
Okay.
some sort of substance, or story, or some sort of theme. And I just don't really get that with the next couple tracks until we get to Reincarnated, which is a fantastic track. But before we get to Reincarnated,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts, Karen?
Yeah, I kind of the same thing where I feel like it's kind of a filler track, but it wasn't too hot on this one. But I have a few things to mention that.
Is it just one before Reincarnated, or
Yeah,
oh,
just the
there's just
one.
one. Okay, well, what is it called?
It's
I forget now.
Hey Now,
Hey Now, yeah,
featuring Dotty Six.
yeah.
Whoever
Oh,
that is.
so another thing with the features. I'm pretty sure every single feature is a rapper from the LA area, which, once again, we cannot separate this from the beef, because one criticism that Drake, and also, like, Drake fans were kind of saying on Twitter and stuff. Twitter was a huge part of this beef as well, by the way.
Of course, as with any beef is.
But a big criticism towards Kendrick was, dude, you never hype up other rappers, really. Like, all of your collaborations seem to be with like pop stars who are like extremely popular, like Taylor Swift, and other artists like that, like Maroon 5.
Yeah.
Like, other than like the people in your immediate label who are like within that label, you don't collaborate with other artists, or like push other artists into the limelight,
Mm.
especially from LA. Like, you never push up anyone else from LA unless they've already been signed to the TDE label.
Right.
So that's kind of been like a common criticism. Whereas Drake, on the other hand, is always like collaborating with smaller artists and like making them really popular and giving them a chance to like have a career off this like one big push, right?
Mhm.
I mean, people have criticisms with him collaborating with smaller artists for other reasons, but whatever. We'll
Wait,
get
what do you
into
mean by
that.
smaller artists?
Like,
Age or?
huh? Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So with these features, I feel like we're seeing Kendrick being like, yo, okay, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
I'm going to now like dip into the local talent, or within the LA scene, and kind of give them a boost that they should get. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's any features other than SZA on this album where the feature has a lot of popularity within the rap scene. So he's kind of doing that, and kind of also answering the criticism that he was getting. So sorry, you were saying for Hey
Yeah.
Now.
For Hey Now, a couple of things that I appreciated and didn't like. First one was they artificially created the bass sound to sound like your subs are blown up. And I loved that. Because I was like, I used to blow up my subs in my old Toyota Corolla, install a subwoofer in there.
Oh, you're a Corolla boy too?
Oh, yeah.
I used to be a Corolla boy.
2002.
Shoo.
Stick shift. Power windows didn't work, so I shoved a hammer in there.
Nice.
And the first song I played in that one was GOMD by J. Cole, and I blew it up. Had to rewire the thing.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
day.
That's a great song.
My fuses blew. And it reminded me of me rolling around town with that. And I like that, you know what, we can get that same feeling. We have the technology. But I was genuinely concerned, like, wait a minute, is my headphones blowing up? I have to check, because usually it costs you a lot of money. Anyways, I really like that. It's a good touch. But around the similar vein of that sort of production style, I felt there's too much distortion and compression in the vocals. It's a very modern way of treating vocals. It's always up front. It's very, like all that kind of stuff, and the wet syllables are very up front. A lot of sizzle to the tone, and it just became a lot with everything else going on for my ears. So I felt like the mix was too energetic for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Song was meh.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Mid. But the next song is not.
No, this one's fantastic.
Reincarnated. So what did you think about Reincarnated?
Oh, for starters, let me review what it was. what I'm looking at here.
I'll start
You
by
start.
saying,
You start.
right off the bat, the beat goes so hard. Such a cool song, beat wise, and lyrically, Kendrick is on the top of his game.
Yeah.
It's a cool storytelling song. Takes the perspective of real figures from the past. Like, so the first verse is from the perspective of a guitar player who, leaves his family home. He has a fight with his dad, gets kicked out by his dad, and makes it as like a musician. But he struggles with various things. I forget exactly what it was. I think he struggles with like having being in relationships with multiple women, having what else was it? I'm kind of forgetting
I
now.
kind of forget too. I know the second verse was
Second
about
one was about
drugs.
drugs.
Yeah.
Was drug use. But I'll have to go back in the lyrics to remember exactly what the exact story was. But I did some research, and it is about John Lee Hooker, or so most people think. And then the second verse is probably about a female singer named Billie Holiday. So yeah, excellent storytelling song, taking the perspective of these people as they went through their careers. And then in the courses between the verses, he's kind of saying like, I'm reincarnated from these people.
Mhm.
Like I feel their pain, I can understand their perspectives and where they're coming from. And I'm like a new version of them almost, right? Another big thing for me was just like all of Kendrick's music is so intentional.
Mhm.
Like every little thing he does is like, there's a lot of thought put behind it. So the little guitar picking after when I first listened to it, after he talks about the guitar player, and there's like little guitar picking in between the chorus and the next verse, I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. So it
So
just really
good.
shows the thought that's put into his songs.
To add to that, there's some moments where 2 minutes and 20 mark the strings come back, and wow, what a treat it is! What a relief it is at that point, because I think he's
Yeah.
changing the tune at that point to kind of bring it all together. And throughout all that, it's just he's sharing the demons that he fought, or he knows others have fought, and he walks alongside that. And that's where he's retelling that story.
Yeah.
He's sharing in that pain, and in that moment with the strings, it felt like quite a relief to have that. Off the top, however,
They're tense though,
yeah,
those strings. Yeah.
I mean they're tense, but they
Like the way they're
a
played.
lot of chromatic kind of dissonance moments, and he gets that into his own vocal performance as well.
Yeah.
The inflections he brings to match those strings is amazing.
Yeah.
He's right with there.
Yeah.
Off the top, there's this hi-hat thing where it kind of phases, it pans. I remember I used to try to do some of that stuff with some of my songs back in the day, and I liked the idea. It was very interesting and effective, but it was very taxing to me. It was very distracting. It took a lot of energy. So that first verse always goes over my head because I'm like, I'm distracted from those hi-hats that are like going through left and right channels.
Okay.
So I wish that wasn't there exactly, but if you can hear past that, then everything else really sits nicely.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't notice that part, but yeah, I actually wrote in my notes strings in the back are like I really like that in the song. The last verse, he's having a conversation with God, but it could also be seen as like a conversation between him and his dad. And from songs and other albums, we know he kind of has like an interesting relationship with his father, right? Some of my favorite tracks from him are about that. Like there's one on Damn, I think it's Duckworth,
Yeah.
where he talks about kind of like how his dad and his label manager kind of like met before when they were younger. That's really cool. So yeah, so that last verse I think is just masterful because it can be interpreted from multiple perspectives, and he's just basically having a conversation with God, saying like, "Hey, I've done like all these great things," and like he's getting input from God, and God saying, "Well, yeah, you're doing great, but you also have to humble yourself, and there's still ways that you can improve." So overall, I think that the track is really this is a Kendrick Lamar track that this is what I look for when I listen to Kendrick, right? Whereas like Squabble Up or Hey Now, like those tracks aren't necessarily what I'm looking for. So that's kind of where my where my love for this album falls short is on those songs. But songs like Reincarnated, this is the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm with
This
you
is
on
the
that
good
one.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Reincarnated. Fantastic song. Then we move on to TV Off. Turn his TV off. Turn his TV off. Turn his TV off. Similar chorus to Squabble Up. Squabble Up, where he's just kind of like saying the title of the song in like a kind of funny way, and it's repeating it over and over again. Although I think it works a tiny bit better on TV Off. I really like this one. What did you think, Karen?
I like this one a little bit more than the Squabble Up. I think
Yeah.
at first listen, at first glance, I would say that I'm not a big fan of that mumble rap stuff, all the playful characterizations of things. But I recognize that I could still discern all of his words. So it's measured. He's very careful with how he was doing it, just like all the other characters he's doing. And with that in mind, I had some appreciation to actually try to listen and not kind of have it glaze over. There was a moment where he held a long note in kind of like a playful manner. And to me, that was borrowed from Gambino's, was it 2000,
2005.
3005? Yeah, yeah. Where he's like, forgot the line, but don't be mad because I'm doing me. What are you doing new? Don't be mad because I'm
Oh
doing
yeah,
you.
yeah, okay.
That part
Yeah,
where he
yeah.
kind of holds that long note, kind of like
Yeah,
with
yeah.
a lot of attitude.
Yeah.
He did that again in Kendrick did that in this song, and I thought, hey, that's a nice reference. I know that sound. I think a lot of rappers do it now, but I think Gambino was the first person I heard doing it, and
Okay.
it's very interesting.
I have to go back to it. I don't know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I kind of forget too
yeah.
myself, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this song grew on me for sure. Like at first it was kind of like, this is basically just like Squabble Up again, or like a song kind of like Not Like Us, but not as memorable as Not Like Us. But it's definitely grown on me. The energy is just undeniable in this track. The outro is fantastic. I love the beat switch, right? And the mustard. Turn his TV off. Turn his like it's just so fun. Like you can't
Yeah, it's fun.
deny how fun this song is and the energy on it. So definitely another top tier song on the album for me.
I think this featured artist, his friend, to me, I just I got the impression that he just said hello and then left at the end of the song.
Oh, where he's like crazy, scary, stupid, hilarious. Like
Yeah.
that's like he's kind of just rapping. That's so memorable to me. Like that refrain gets stuck in my head so much.
That's great.
Yeah. What's the name of the feature? Do you remember?
No.
Do you have it in your notes?
Lefty Gunplay.
Lefty Gunplay. Yeah. So another LA artist that at least I was not familiar with any of these features other than SZA. But
To me, I was like, if that was my featured, if he invited me to be a featured artist on that song, I would be a little wary about having such a small role or small presence on that song.
yeah.
But I guess it seemed that it worked for you, and it
Yeah.
probably worked for a lot of other people who appreciate that moment.
Yeah.
But in a song like that, I think that would be, I'd be wanting to have more room for play than scary, spooky.
If I was collaborating with Kendrick, I feel like I'd be like, whatever you want me to do, Kendrick, I will do whatever you say.
Careful with your words, sir.
So I don't know. It's interesting to think about like how did these featured artists kind of how did they take up the call to arms on this album? Like what was their method, right? So interesting. Okay, anyways, that's TV Off. Let's move to Heart Part 6. So
We're not
once
going to talk
again,
about Peekaboo?
sorry?
Are we not going to talk about
Peekaboo. My mistake. I forgot. Peekaboo is another song that I was not very impressed with.
Maybe that's
another
why.
Squabble Up. Yeah, it's not in my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Peekaboo, and then what comes after Peekaboo?
Actually, before Peekaboo, there's Dodger Blue.
Okay, yeah, I knew I was missing some songs. So Dodger Blue, Peekaboo, and then Heart Part 6.
Yeah, we can just quickly go through a couple of those.
You go ahead. It's basically the same thing for me.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't. They were kind of mid for me. I wasn't impressed by them. Blah blah blah.
To me, listening through the album, Dodger Blue was a nice palate cleanser, dance song, fun, poppy. A little bit of just a female vocalist in there. I forgot exactly who it was, but it was nice. It was a good break. I felt like it was very appropriate at the time. Peekaboo is interesting, but to me, where I
how does it
Okay.
go? Do you remember any refrains from it or anything?
I'm not good with the
I'm
words.
forgetting now. It's okay if you don't.
Peekaboo.
Oh, okay. I think this was the song that was like. Was the beat weird?
Yeah, it's a bit,
Yeah,
it's a bit
but I
weird.
kinda liked
yeah,
it.
there's, I have a theory about that.
Let's hear it.
Okay, it might be this song or the other one, but if it is this song, and I'm correct about that, there's a sample that I believe wasn't on the recording when they were recording the vocals. He added it after. There's a sort of like almost Latin reggaeton beat going on underneath it, and all the rappers on that track groove to that the rhythm beat. But there's a sample that they completely ignore, except Kendrick at one moment. And I believe that he added that shit in after to be weird. There's no way they would have rapped the way they rapped if they were hearing that through their headphones when they're tracking.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the reason why it's weird. But I also think it's, yeah, I think that's part of the reason why it's weird. If this is the same I'm thinking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more thing about Peekaboo is I think it's the way I see it is it's sort of like flipping through channels on the TV. And it's similar to scrolling through social media and seeing reels. All these one-liners, all these very adjunct moments in the song is meant to be a characterization of how we consume media and characterization of how we build a perception of a person through short snippets of their life.
I like that.
And that's why it's such a weird song, because it's meant to like feel as disconnected, disjointed, but still entertaining as it's like a parody of how we actually see him.
Right. Wow, that's cool. Actually, I really like that. Can always rely on Karen for the poetry.
Yeah, here we go.
For the deep analysis. I like that a lot.
Once in a while,
Every once in a while, yeah. Okay, next one. So that's Dodger Blue, Peekaboo.
Yeah.
They rhyme, haha. And then The Heart Part 6. So this is once again where we get back to my original thesis of how you cannot separate this album from the beef.
Tell him, Teach.
Because the story surrounding this was with Drake dropping his last track of the beef. He released The Heart Part 6. I don't want to get too deep into this because it's not like, I don't know, it's relevant, but it's not necessarily super relevant because Kendrick doesn't reference anything in the beef in the song. He kind of just sidesteps it, like very gentlemanly. He's kind of like, I'm not talking about any of this stuff, and we're all cool with it.
From what you told me earlier, this was his thing. This is what he does.
This is what he does. Yeah. So yeah, if you don't mind, I'll just take it for a sec. The Heart Part series is, before he releases an album, Kendrick always drops a Heart Part song, right? For those of you who are watching, you're probably very familiar with this, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But for those of you who aren't, one of Drake's last song that he came out with in the beef, he named it The Heart Part 6, right? Which is kind of like a chess move because he's claiming the Part 6 of the Heart series before Kendrick can, because he knows, hey, if Kendrick's going to release a new album anytime soon, he's going to be doing the Heart Part thing. That's what he does. So everyone was really excited to hear this song. And I'm sure for Kendrick fans, they're very happy that, Kendrick dealt with it in a way that was just pretty much just like wiping his hands of the beef. Like I'm not even doing anything related to the beef here. I'm going to talk about my reflections of how I made it in the rap game, Schoolboy Q and my relations with him when we were coming up, and J-Rock as well. And I love when he's talking about J-Rock and how like J-Rock was getting signed first. And he was like, I knew that if he makes it, then I was going to make it, right? Like, because we make it together, like we're teammates in that sense, right? So I just loved hearing about that. So yeah, I thought this was a really, really cool song. I don't revisit it a lot, but I do think overall it's another top tier song on the album.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think so as well. This is a contender for one of my favorite songs on the record. One reason is I like me some chords.
Okay.
It's one of the first tracks I think I heard some nice chords and, harmony is great. This was nice. It was refreshing. It just felt like he's in the studio and he's rapping about what he wants to rap about. I like that. I like that stuff a lot. And at this point in the album, it was I won't say much needed, but much appreciated. This song is definitely all about gratitude. The hook was very captivating, a very strong, encouraging message, and I think a lot of people who end up listening to this song may need to hear this message. So it's good for them, and good that Kendrick put this out there because people need to hear what he had to say on this record.
Yeah, and I got a ton of once again West Coast vibes on this one. This was probably the most nostalgic.
Yeah.
For West Coast vibes out of all of them, and it was great. Yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like this one.
And then we move on to Gloria. So
Yes.
for me, this is the masterpiece of the entire album. This was
I'm with
this was the song that like really was like, okay, this is the best song on the album. Like when I first listened to it, I was like, yeah, this is amazing. So the chorus is great too. SZA sounds amazing on it. This it's a storytelling song, classic rap formula, because you think the lyrics are, he's talking about one thing, right? His love of his life or his wife or something like that, and then at the end, spoiler alert, he reveals that it's his pen that he's talking about the whole time, and
and then you go like
your mind is
this.
blown. Yeah,
Go for a
and it's
walk.
going back to what you said about gratitude, right? He's like showing how grateful he is for his writing ability. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I'll leave it to you if you want to say anything more about this track.
I can say a lot about this one, but definitely it's an homage to artistry. It helps paint a picture of what I mentioned earlier about how uh, an album cover is a moment in time. It's a portrait in time, as much as the visual is, as much as the sound is, and I think he's fully aware of his role in that, and he's just paying his respects to the life he's living and the choices he makes through his artistry, and putting it all together at the end is just fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it really reminds me of there's a Common song. Do you know Common? There's a rapper named Common.
No.
You should listen to his stuff. It's really good. He's like, I don't know. Some people would probably call him like an old head rapper. Like he's been around for a while. Um, but he's got a song um, where he kind of does a similar thing where he flips the whole story and you think he's
Mm.
talking about a girl, but then he's talking about hip hop as a genre, as the genre as a whole. And it's just at the end, it's just like the last line. And then once that line hits, it all kind of comes tumbling down on you. You're like, this lyric was about that. That lyric was like everything. Like for example, in Gloria, he says like you think he's talking about a girl, and then he's like, oh, I know your favorite movie. I bet it's Notebook. Like, is it Notebook? I love how he says
Yeah.
it. And then when you realize he's talking about his pen, it's like a notebook. Whoa, oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
basically that's why I love that song so much. Maybe I'm being super basic here, but and SZA just really pulls it all together,
Yeah.
right? Like I think I've said that already. SZA sounds amazing on this track. Chorus is really great. And yeah, just like it's a beautiful closer to a pretty good album. And so
Pretty good.
pretty good album.
Overall, this album was such a good example of what modern production techniques, mixed with deep rooted traditions can bring in such an artistic way. I think the space that was reserved for some of those production elements, some of those loops, some samples, strings, were just held in the most unique ways that I haven't felt a hip hop song reach that space before. And I'm talking about like audio space where certain reverbs are there, the placement of instruments and sounds. It helped bring such a unique, playful space to his artistry. The way it was mixed and everything, the way all the sounds were treated. I think it's just like spot on for what you can do and what we should all aspire to be trying to do. Yeah.
Well, beautifully said, Karen. Beautifully said. Okay, that is GNX.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't do a great job of proving my thesis though. I did an okay job, maybe.
Maybe we could try again another
We'll
day.
try again another day. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the whole vibe is just victory lap. Victory lap from winning the beef. Putting a stamp on 2024. Turn his TV off. Turn Drake's TV off.
I think I have a slightly different take.
Squabble up on Drake. Squabble up.
Squabble up. The different take I have about Victory Lap, but it's very maybe similar, is I can tell that he's gone through a lot of growth since his last record and the last things he's been doing, publicly at least. And I think this is his statement of where he's at now in terms of his growth and his development. How he's been battling his demons and overcoming them, his healing process. It is definitely part of his healing process, and he's making a statement about that. Yeah.
I think it's time to rate this album. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with how we do our ratings. I'm going to give a rating out of 5. Karen is going to give a rating out of 5. We're going to combine those scores to give a overall score of the album. If the album gets a 9 or more out of 10, we will give it the special golden star achievement, golden note achievement. And I don't think we've had an album yet that has gotten that achievement, but
Not yet.
we'll see maybe for this one. For me, I'll start. I think I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. It was good. There's some songs I really liked from it. But it didn't satisfy what I usually look for in Kendrick Lamar. How about yourself, Karen?
I'm giving it a 3.7 out of 5.
3.7 out of 5.
3.7.
Can we round to the nearest 0.5?
Oh yeah, you don't want to do that? Okay, sure. How about 3.5 then?
3.5 as well?
3.5.
Okay.
I wanted to give it a 4, but there's some things that could be better. I could do with a bit less squabble, maybe a little bit more squibble. Things like that. I feel like it was calculated, like it needed to be done in this day and age to keep the attention of the audience and the modern audience, which I think is disappointing, just because I'm not a big fan of squibble squabbles. But I am a big fan of what this album stood for. And the production was great. The mix was fantastic. So there's moments where it just really missed for me. That's where it got 3.5.
Yeah.
Could have been a 4.
Yeah. I don't even think this is like a top 3 Kendrick album for me.
Mhm.
Maybe that's going to be a hot take for early 2025, but I really don't think. I don't know, maybe it will. I just don't think it's going to stand up in his catalog in a way that it competes with Good Kid or To Pimp a Butterfly.
I
or
think this
even
is
Damn.
It's a departure from his catalog.
Yeah.
And I think time will tell where he goes from here.
Yeah.
And then this album would make more sense in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, thank you everyone for listening to the Golden Note podcast. Let us know what you think in the
So we
comments.
got a what, 6.5?
Total score is a 3.5 plus 3.5. I believe that is a nice 7 out of 10.
Wow.
That
Look at that.
One of our better scores so far. 7 out of 10. Not bad at all. So let us know what you think. Let us know if you agree with that score in the comments. Give a like, give a subscribe, and
Oh yeah, all that stuff.
And we hope we'll see you for the next video.
Yeah, let's have a conversation in the comments to see what you all think about this. It'd be good.
Yeah. In the meantime, take it easy.